Hello, this is Marcos Arroyo. This is video post 4 for Anthropology. I'll be answering all the questions in sequence, going over them all. To start, the name of the species and the genus is Homo floresiensis, and they are descendants from Homo erectus. They are They have been recognized to be around the same area as modern Homo sapiens, being in that they came from 50,000 years ago, or started in that time. The skeletons found were dated to be 18,000 years, so they were at least around sharing the same time era for about a little over 30 years, or I'm sorry, 30,000 years. So they were around at the same time. It was described with their shape and size of their brains, uh, generally being a third of the size of that of modern humans. So they had like a smaller brain, very small, and it was interesting to see how they were able to function after that in terms of what they did. They were described, or how it was described, how they first came into the island was that during the Ice Age, the water levels were very low. So from the Asian mainland, it was easier to get through between land masses, whatever, and they made their way to that island once the Ice Age ended and the ice melted and the water levels started rising again. They became stranded there, and being the little people they were, they could not leave, and that's where they ended up staying. The folklore with these guys, they were named Igo Ibugogo, which meant grandmother that ate everything, and they were described to be little hairy people. They hunted pygmy elephants and dragons that spit, or spitting dragons. They were actually feared amongst humans, Homo sapiens, and that along with the tigers and the elephants, they were just as feared. They terrorized the villages and raided the crops, and they mentioned how they ran away with the baby, and so they were secluded. They're mainly seclusive into their caves, and they were chased out of those caves. So definitely view it as pretty hostile little guys, pretty scary. Um, that was generally what the folklore, what that was about. With evidence with the Ling Bois skeletons, the cave where they were found. Um, in terms of how they lived, how they survived, there was fire pits. They found stone tools. It just explained kind of their sophistication and what they understood or what they were working with. In terms of their built and their stature being 3 feet tall, it was just known that with the evidence of what they ate, they had to hunt in groups, because they couldn't hunt by themselves for animals that were bigger than them. I mean, with all those things in consideration and the fact of their cranium size, which makes a clear statement of what their brain sizes were, the biggest thing that came about was the idea of just a different perspective of the model of human intelligence, where it came from and how it developed to be where it was, because they did a lot more with less brain space. So it kind of rerouted, it kind of gave different insights, and that's what I think was the most interesting part. That much so. Um, let's see. Why were they so small living in the islands? It generally because it was a smaller space, and being secluded in that only, and I mean, pretty much confined within that area. They had to deal with less food. There wasn't an abundance of food, so they had to eat less. By eating less and to adapt to that, they needed to decrease in size, and they had to um, they had to do that for the sake of living off of less food. And when you're smaller, less food will satisfy you to survive. It's just not required to eat more than you need to. Um, I do think it's advantageous to be smaller only because you need less food. Less food is required to survive, but not so much so advantageous if it comes into situations where you come into contact with larger creatures, especially hostile ones, because they could just take you out or hunt you, kill you, eat you, whatever. Um, Generally, I think that's the best and worst of it. So, with most fearsome predator, it was actually the Komodo dragon. They are now 500 pounds in size, but at the time they were actually bigger than that. So if you have a group of Homo floresiensis and they needed to hunt in groups, I mean, if it was for a 500-pound Komodo dragon, it had to be more so if they were bigger than that at that time. So they were the most fearsome predator. You would think an elephant or tiger would be in some ways scarier, but the only thing that made it different was the size of the two, or between the reptiles and the mammals. Because as it was explained in the video, the cold-blooded animals, which were the reptiles, generally expand in size in small islands, while the mammals become the warm-blooded animals generally shrink. So as these mammals, the other predators, so to speak, the other the animals living with these hominids, um, become generally smaller and smaller, these reptiles were kind of just staying big or getting bigger. So they were the ones that were pretty much like dinosaurs, just kind of being bigger than the whole group of the hominid group, and they had to band together to eat those because there was evidence that they hunted those and ate the Komodo dragons, so they still made it happen. Um, Aside from that, I think that was all the questions. So it was a very interesting video. I liked it a lot. Um, it's interesting to see how when something comes around that kind of brings about controversy, especially towards evolution and what the history was with try to explain, draw lines here and there as to where our definite origin came from, and it was nice. It was fun to watch. I liked it a lot. Thank you.